class, probably. Really? This is the page we're on? Okay. So there's been a low-grade disaster, which is that maybe some of you foresaw this, but I'm still planning on making you implement a source control management tool. That seems so hard. Like, you'll be fine, but I think I should teach you a little bit more about JSON first, because I'm guessing you're going to want to know JSON for this, and I'll motivate that a little bit. So, here's the update. Here's how to think about this conceptually. I'm going to do my level best to teach you Serde today. Now, all of the Serde I know, I learned in the last 72 hours while trying to do the final I was going to assign you. And I thought it was going to be super easy, and lo and behold, it wasn't. But I think it will be super easy for you when I teach it to you. So I think I'm saving you a lot of time and energy here. Serde seems awesome. It's the first Rust crate that I've really been taken with. And then you're like, oh, Rust crates, we haven't really been using a lot of those. I think we used big int, right? But this is another one. And it just solves a lot of problems. I probably should have used it to teach graph theory. I'm somewhat excited, and I hope you are like maybe keeping a mental list or something to go back and sort of put this class in an order that makes more sense at the end of the term now that we've been through it together. But anyways, like JSON's a cool thing, and we teased JSON during an earlier graph theory lecture. Okay, but I was going to introduce the final today, not expecting you to work on it over the break coming up, but I thought it might marinate in your brain a little bit, and you like accidentally like solve some problems in your dreams or something, right? You've lost the benefit of that time because I decided it was more important to teach you this sort of vocational tool, right? This is fundamentally a job skill. So in exchange for that, we're going to pay one tax, which is that the final will not be forced to be as cumulative as it was previously. I'm going to take the hashing and Merkle sections and denote them optional. There will be very little work if you want to add them once you complete the framework, but it would have been a certain amount of development time and a certain amount of headache. So in exchange for that, I want to give you Serde, and so I think I'm making I'm converging on a final examination that, it's due when the final exam is due. I don't think it makes sense to have a 3-hour written exam in this class. Presumably, that doesn't make sense to any of you either. What would I ask you, like a bunch of field theory or something? Oh, well, Okay, we're not going to entertain that. There's going to be a project. It will be due when the final's due, and I will be available before the time when the project is due. And we're going to think of it as we would think of a term paper. Anyways, I want to set you up for success on that because, first of all, I really want to have code that does this. Not that I'm ever planning on using my own version control system while Git exists, right? That's crazy. I think there's approximately a 0% chance you actually understand what's going on in Git until you start writing it yourself. And then you're like, oh, that's why it's like that. Oh, that's why it's like that. Like, for the first time in my life this weekend, I figured out why git add is a command. And I was like, wow, that makes a ton of sense. So, here's what I think is happening. The high-level, slow-moving, ongoing task is you knowing enough you can implement a source management tool. Now, my impression is you know enough already. It would just take a ton of grinding, which I think you could do. And I don't even know there would be an unreasonable amount of grinding for a final project. I mostly don't want you to end up with degenerate solutions. I think you have an ongoing assignment. So we had LCS first, and then now we have diff. I am thinking of diff as being ongoing, and I'm thinking of the diff code as being sort of the fundamental contribution to making the source control management tool, because you can take diffs between files, and that's how you can manage versions. We have covered hash trees, which is how you sort of verify the correctness of source control management, and that is going to be an add-on on top of diff once things get going. And so today I'm going to introduce this helpful crate, and then I'm providing you in text. There will be no mandatory usage of hashing on the final project, but it will be encouraged. Something that is ongoing is I'm doing parallel development in Python and Rust as I have done all term because I think the best way to write a Rust spec is in Python. So I've started building out a source control management tool in Python. Currently, this only does commits, so I can't branch, I can't revert, I can't add. But you can look at this and you can play around with this. And most importantly, this is what the Python code looks like. I'll tell you what's going on here. Okay. This is using a built-in Python library to take diffs. Who cares? Not interesting. You've written diff already. And your diff is better than this diff, so you're going to want to use your diff. This, I said I just learned why Git has an add command. So I have only ever used Git, and I never even thought about this conceptually. I just instantly add every file in every directory to Git version control management, and then I never think about it ever again. So I guess normal people don't do that. They think intentionally about which files they want to maintain versions of. I don't. And so when I was writing my source control management tool, I said, well, how do I look at every single file in a directory? And then let's look at what is happening? Is one of these interesting? Okay, let's look at the answer keys. This is my private repository that has solutions to the homeworks in it, except EDSA, which was both the hardest, and I deleted my solution by accident, which is crazy. Okay, I typed ls, right? This is a Git repository. Where is all that Git nonsense? Well, there's a hidden .git directory, okay? And we can look inside of that hidden .git directory, and it's just chock full of nonsense, right? But you can probably guess what a commit edit message is, right? That's not the most confusing thing in the world. Okay, but wouldn't that mean that if I'm doing version control on every single file in a Git repository, the .git directory is then it's going to be itself under version control, and you have a recursive version control problem? So, in order to prevent this, I check to see if there's dots inside the names of the files, and those are the hidden files, right? So, what's going on here? When I list all of the files, I get a bunch of different things, and then when I list all of them, including hidden, then .git shows up. So, when I first made my version control system, it was implementing version control over the portions of the hidden files that contained versions of files. So I had a file that contained a copy of itself. This led to the file size getting very large very quickly. Do you see how that can happen, right? I had an infinite loop in my file size. So don't do that. Anyways, that was pretty easy. And this is where I realized, oh, that's why you have git add, so you don't accidentally add the version control management to the version control management. Okay. I did everything inside a hidden.scm file. Now, versus Git, you notice how this is a different color than the files? So this is a file in white. This is a directory in blue. I don't think that's very cool. I think having a hidden folder, that's not for me. So I was going to do everything inside a single hidden file, and I've placed this single hidden file under version control as well, and we're going to look at it in a minute. So if you are running the source control management tool for the first time, what happens is it creates this hidden file, and what do I do first? I check to see if the hidden file exists. So I'm just calling mine scm, and also if it is of size 0. And if it is, what do? You open, read, and split lines every file in the directory that is not a hidden file. And this is a dictionary of file names to lists of lines. And then I JSON dump that. I have something called latest, which stores all of the current files. And then I have the commit, which is currently the same thing as latest. Okay. That's how I'm developing my version control system. Okay. So say I'm saving a later version, and I have already initialized. So this is essentially equivalent to git init. Git init is super easy because nothing you do matters yet, right? There's only one. Okay. Now, if you do something again, what do you have to do? Well, you have to go out and open the repository data. So I'm just grabbing it as a JSON. It has a latest and a commit in it. Why do I have latest? I realized you should cache the latest version of this. Otherwise, as soon as you have 100 commits, you're applying 100 diffs to every single file every time. That seemed crazy. I am sure somehow Git caches the latest version. I don't know. I didn't actually see it in the source code. But as soon as you start writing this, you're like, oh, someone is definitely caching the latest versions. Now, when you do this on your own, I'm not going to require you to make any optimizations at all, so you don't have to do that. I bet you'll find this is easier. Okay, so this is the last commit. And what is this? This is going to be stored as a dictionary of file names and lists of their lines. Why do I want lists of lines? You've done diff. You know why you want a list of lines instead of plain text, right? And then this is the last commit. So I look inside the last commit and find all of the files that existed in that commit. Here are all of the new files that were added. So this is files that I just found that are not in the last commit. I initialize those files the same way I created the original thing. And then the other files, I take a diff from the old version of the file and the new version of the file. But how do I have the old version of the file? Well, I saved inside latest the most recent version before the commit. So this is just a diff between the file that is currently written in the file system and the file that is saved in my JSON. As Pez. Does that make sense? That's easy peasy? Okay. I never know when I'm saying absolute nonsense. Or sometimes I know it's absolute nonsense and sometimes I don't. Okay. By the way, this uses unified diff. Unified diff is horrible. Which one of these are similar? Dive and JSON, I guess. Okay. So in this unified diff format, they put in a bunch of stuff that's in both files. So this doesn't have minuses or pluses on it. That's just like for context or something. I don't know. Anyways, the diff lib in Python doesn't accept the my preferred style of diff, which is not the -u, which looks like this, where every single line in here, let me make it big, every single line in here is either in one file or the other. So I like that better. Python doesn't have a way to do that. I could use subprocess to capture it, and I don't want to do all of that. Okay, so I'm just storing udiffs, universal diffs, and then I just cache all of that into the hidden file, and then I JSON dump it. And this is a way that I can create commits and going on. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, none of that makes sense. What are you even talking about? Not to worry. Here's what one of the JSON files looks like. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, that's heinous. How am I supposed to read that? No problem. There's probably some graceful way to read this. Curl into Python at 3M JSON tool. Okay, that actually worked. I didn't think that was going to work. For the record, what I did is I grabbed something from the URL and I piped it into the JSON pretty printer that's built into Python. This is what it looks like. Not huge, right? First of all, not big. Now, I just showed you this code, and we can take a look at it. So, what is the latest? This is all of the lines in the file from the most recent file version. And it has something in it at the end called trivial comment. This is the thing I was fiddling with. Okay, there is 2 commits, which we can see because this is in array. So this is the split in between the 2 commits. So the first commit initializes with this content is the same as this content, but we note we do not have a trivial comment yet. We end at JSON dump. This does not end at JSON dump. Okay? So there is no diff on the initial commit. Then on the second commit, nothing is initialized, no new files are added, but there is one difference, and that difference is this content here, which is super ugly, but it represents the addition of the trivial comment to the end. So if I took this, can I get it? Let's see. Do I have? Okay. Okay. I'm going to call this diff.diff. Okay. Nope, that's not right. It has new lines in it. So I want to to print. Oh, I have to do, well, maybe this works. Dang it. Python 3 C triple quote print single quote. Okay, I don't know how to print this out most gracefully. Wait, do I? How do I change all those? How do I change these into new lines? Wait, I don't have to, right? I can just load the JSON. Anyway, okay, I'm like so far down a rabbit hole at this point. When you, let's look at it here. Okay, when you take this content, you can use this with a patch to change the version of a file. Have I shown you patch yet? I think I did. I'm going to show you patch again. Okay, so it's not too hard to do a patch demo real quick. Wow, that's so annoying that that looks like that. Okay, remove diff.diff. Okay, we're going to get into for SCM. Okay. I'm going to make, we'll do our classic example with cal and vin. Typing is hard. Okay. I don't know why I exited instead of doing E. Okay, what is it? V-I-N space D-I-E-S-E-L. Okay. No, they're all indented. Okay. So, diff cal vin. Okay. Right, okay. So here's a diff file. We store this diff file as diff.diff, I guess. What else are we going to call it? Okay. Then we look at cal.text. Then we patch cal.text with diff.diff. And then we cat cal.text, and it updates it to be in the other file. So patch consumes a current file and a diff on that file, and causes an in-place transformation to the named file to become the new version of the file. Now you can do this with versions of software, right? So this is a way to use version control management. I don't yet have patch anywhere in this thing, because when would you use patch in version control system? You use it when you check out an earlier commit. And I can't yet go back in time on this. But because I stored those diffs, I can go back in time to earlier versions of the software by just applying the diff backwards. And so that's how you can use source control management. If you go down a rabbit hole and make implementation mistakes, you can patch backwards and get back to wherever you forked off to do something silly. So that is going to be the next version. This is currently both init and commit, and it just automatically determines which one of those there is. But then I'm going to need to do one other thing, which is I'm going to need to be able to check out a different commit by its number, basically. And I think when I do that, it's basically going to be done. So that's where this all fits into SCM. Okay. Motivation. So my impression from doing this process is that I convinced myself very quickly I really wanted to be working with probably JSON, but not literally JSON. I convinced myself I wanted to be working with hierarchical data structures of arbitrary depth that contained different types of things. Now, in the olden days, in the original Unix solution to everything, you just store everything as a bit string that is either ASCII or a number. Git follows this convention. And there's nothing wrong with that convention, but there's also reasons not to use it. And one of the best reasons not to use it for you now is a very practical reason that working with strings in Rust is horrible. And it should be horrible because a lot of security errors and a lot of implementation errors over the years emerged from people taking shortcuts working with strings when what they should have been working with was information. The JSON standard is airtight, and it prevents you from a lot of the forms of excess that have contributed to problems with earlier versions of code where everything was just text. So, in my view, is that going to work? I think this is how you do it. There we go. So, in my view, it is bad that that comes out as weird text where it's a social convention what all of those things mean. What I really want is some JSON file that says, hey, this is in left, this is in left, this is in right, this is in right, maybe some line numbers for it or something. And do I actually have that? Let's see. Cargo new for JSON copy answer courses answers JSON sork. Let's see, for JSON sork main. Okay, so oh dang, it didn't quite work. Okay, I'm going to try and show you what I believe is a working JSON implementation of this problem. And I'm going to show you how to get Serde to work. So this is basically my version of the diff assignment. You can see I'm doing some dynamic programming here. Probably this doesn't look too alarming to you if you've been working on the homework. This is spoilers if you've been working on the homework, but like you know what you're doing. I am using, specifically at one location here, I am turning something into a JSON file using the Serde JSON crate, which is why when I type cargo run, I get 2 unresolved imports. I have an unresolved modular unlinked crate Serde JSON, and I have an unresolved modular unlinked crate Serde. Serde is just the name of the thing in Rust that handles these problems. So I'm going to use cargo add, which is not quite the same thing as pip install, but it's close enough. That was pretty fast. This is going to take, I think, 8 seconds. And what we see here is I have taken the same problem that you all are working on right now, and I have formatted the output into a JSON file that you can kind of see. Like, I don't know how nice this looks. But I have a left side that has line, starting at line 0, has the text CAL. And then I have a left side that at line 5 has nothing, but on the right side has some I at line 8. I have a left side that at line 7 has some U, and at the right side at line 9 has some SEL. And this is the same information as is present here, where I have a left side value and a right side value. But it is formatted nicely in JSON that I can extract without having to go all the way through and treat everything as a string. Okay? So this was my solution to the diff problem, and I'm incorporating that into my analysis of how I'm going to want to deal with the source control management problem going forward. Okay, that it seems like I'm saying like very, very crazy things. Do any of you want to ask any questions about anything for a minute? I'm going to take like 10 seconds. You can ask about anything you want within reason. Someone earlier today asked what I do in Portland, which is like not a reasonable question for a professor to answer, right? Well, you can't just say shrooms, right? Yeah.
How are you figuring out what line something that you've added is in the original file? Right, so it's like if you add something, it has a like, this is in line 8 in the original file, line 6 in the new one. Like, how does it decide that? That's like the only thing that I can't figure out from the homework.
I think I can do a demo here. We can just number the lines. Oh no, this is going to break everything. We'll only number them in one file. 8, 9. Let's see. And so then is going to be 3, 4, 5. We're going to put a 6 on the space, and then we're going to put 7 and 8 on the DI. Okay. I really need 2 terminal windows open, but every time I open 2 terminal windows on Ubuntu, one of them crashes. So bear with me here for just 1 sec. Okay, so I'm going to try and open. How do I open another window? It's like
another.
Nope, that was not it.
Tab.
Yeah, I need another Vim tab. Is it like Alt-Shift-W?
I think you do :tab new.
No, that didn't help at all. Okay. :tab new? Really?
And then the name of the file. Maybe that's the name of it. Or no space, tab new.
How do I go back and forth? Okay. This was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That doesn't sound right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. Diff Calvin. Okay. Hopefully this helps a little bit. Okay, so on the left-hand side of D, which is a deletion, I guess the lines are 1 indexed, right? We see we have line 0, 1, and 2. And so the output here is just the 1 indexed line numbers. This one's not indexed. And then this is 10 instead of 9, so I should have 1 indexed them. But all this is doing is this is recording the range of the lines in the original file. On the other hand side is where it lines up in the sequence of lines in that file. So where's this I coming from? I'm just going to put an asterisk here. Well, let's see. That's line 6. I'm going to throw a 6 in there. I'm going to put 2 6s there so we can tell it from the space. No, there's already an I. Okay. And so that 6 corresponds to this 6.
Where does the 8 come from?
The 8.
Or like, I guess I know where it comes from. How do I get that it's 8? Like from.
So this I occurs between this D and this E, which means it comes before the 8.
Okay. Makes sense.
No, not what I meant. Is this the class link? This view might make more sense. So it's a partial order, right? This is the 8th line in this file. So, right, both of these are the 8th position, because this isn't a real position, right? So that's why you get the 8 here. And then this probably means the S is going to be 10. And there it is. For me, when I was doing the dynamic programming problem and tracking through with I and J were always either the same as the line number or 1 off in some special cases. And the 1 off cases were always when, if something matches to nothing, I think I had to subtract 1. But if there was 2 lines that changed, then I didn't have to edit it. And I incidentally had that implemented as I was just putting the line numbers in a vector. And so if the vector was of size 0, you just look at the current position and subtract 1, and if there's something in the vector, you use the thing that is currently in the vector. But you can implement this however you like. That's a good question. Well, now I feel like I should ask for more questions, because that was a good question. I should ask myself questions. What do I do in Portland? So if you're in Portland and you're looking for something to do, because you might like go up there early because you're like going to the airport or something, check out the Lloyd Center. It's a dead mall. It's very fun. They have an ice skating rink. I think a lot of cool people hang out there. You won't see me there because I'm not cool, so you'll be safe. I will not compel you to use JSON for the final, but if you don't use it, I won't help you. Unless what you're doing is really awesome. Then I will help you out of like the desire to do things that are awesome. And the obvious awesome thing you can do is if you do everything with strings in the file system, that's pretty cool. I was thinking about doing this with strings in the file system. I do think the only competing formulation I see, and there could be another one, and I bet there's one using SQL that I don't know. The competing formulation I know is nesting in the file system with a hidden folder, and that's what Git does. Let's take a look at an example. This is what the hidden Git folder looks like. What are these things? Folks, those are hashes. That's just a hash. I don't even know that that's a file. Well, let's check. Let's see. ls.git/refs remotes. No, that's not it. Objects? There they are. Okay, so these are the names of commits, I think, probably. I don't know where D3 comes from. None of my business. I think this is a hash table, but I'm not positive. Doesn't it look like a hash table? They're called objects, right? So we can look at 01, it's first. This is probably not the first commit. And that is a directory. No, it's not. Okay, wait, 6.9. Okay. I think that's a hash. I don't really know what that is. So, these like object things, that's the Merkle tree somehow. I don't know the exact implementation Git uses to turn that into a Merkle tree, but it's definitely a Merkle tree because that's a nested hash table of hashes. And so you can throw that inside Git. Anyways, here's when I did tree Git. Do you all have tree? Does that work for you? Do you need help getting tree or anything? Okay. So it looks quite simple here when you don't have a super complicated system, but Git is chock full of stuff, right? This is a repository I just made, and like, look at this. Head refs, heads mains, remote origin, head main, like all of those things mean something in Git. Here's the objects, many fewer objects in this one. I don't know what info and pack are, right? Like all this stuff. So you can make this, but this could just as easily be JSON, right? I could just have a dictionary where one of the keys is the commit edit message. And what is the commit edit message? This may clobber a good dive, which presumably made sense to me when I wrote it. And then you probably have a head. I'm guessing this is just going to be main or master. Okay, yeah, it's main. Some branches. But it's a directory? It's a directory with nothing in it. Okay, so that is a key. Branches is the key, and the value is none, or null, right? So it's easy enough to imagine this hierarchical structure turns into JSON. Here's the pretty printed JSON that I went over with you previously, and so you're aware of this. And this is basically the same thing. I'm just storing commits, and I'm storing local values and all that stuff, right? One of the benefits of both of these, at least in my view, is it's very easy to extend the functionality of these by just adding new keys. So I'm currently not using any branches. You can just like add a branches key to your JSON at any time and just keep track of like whatever you need in there, right? And an obvious thing to do is just like take all of the things that are currently living outside a branch and put them under a branch called main, and then allow there to be other branches, right? And that's like a trivial implementation detail to fidget with. So I'm recommending something along this line. I have not decided yet whether I actually like storing arrays of lines of text more than I like storing blocks of text. I'm sort of waffling on that, but it seems pretty easy to do both. The real advantage of this, by the way, is Does anyone know how to say their Git history? There's some way to do it.
Git log.
Git log. Yeah, I always found this like super unreadable. Like, I don't know the most graceful way to like check this thing out. Well, that seems bad, but manageable. So, I was thinking, I find git log annoying. I thought it would be much cooler to, instead of printing out a log, just print out the JSON file, which is regarded as self-documenting. So this was solving a pretty print problem for me as well. Okay, so design decision. I would like you to decide whether you want to navigate a file system and crush text and be rad as heck. I was obviously tired when I wrote this. Or learn Serde, toss everything in a single file, and be cool as heck. It seems like you're something as heck no matter what you do. So good for you. This is not much of a design decision if I don't teach Serde. Okay. How long have I been talking already? Oh my gosh. Okay, Serde. The problem we have to solve is Rust wants everything to be some type. Usually that means string or int. Let's be real. And sometimes it means hash map or vector, right? Importantly, in the value that corresponds to any JSON key, in well-formed JSON, I can put an object, which is the JSON term for a Python dictionary or a Rust hash map. I can put an array, which is the JSON term for a Python list or a Rust vector. Or I can put a string. Rust doesn't even have strings. It has two things that are both not strings. Python does have strings. JavaScript has strings. Or a number. And numbers can be integers or floats, which already annoys Rust, right? So at a bare minimum, every single entry in some kind of thing that looks an awful lot like a hash map or a vector can be at least one of those 5 types. Hash map, vector, string, integer, float. And there's 8 kinds of integers. Okay? So what does Serde do? Tricks everyone into not caring about this using magic. I didn't teach you about the magic. I didn't find the magic interesting, so I'm not teaching you about it. Basically, it hacks the Rust type system so you can do this. I was super anxious about using Serde, because do you all remember when I made you use polars once? And it took like 45 seconds to compile anything? That was awful. And I was sure that all Rust crates were like that, and then I tried Serde. And it did, in fact, I believe it took 8 seconds to compile when I just ran it. But temp 4. That's not that bad. Wait, there's a none somewhere? That seems fine. Okay, so this is not that slow. So I'm introducing Serde to pay for my sins of trusting polars. Serde stands for serialize and deserialize. What does this mean? Serialized data is data that is in a row. And when we say in a row, what we mean in systems programming is it is arranged in a bit string, which we can think of as a regular string, an ASCII string. So JSON is a well-formatted string. I thought I had some JSON open. This just is a string. It is a string. Now, it is a string that follows some rules, but we can regard it as just a string, which means I can open a file, I can read the entire contents of a file as a string, and that can be a well-formed string type in any modern programming language. Okay, and that is serialized data. Deserialized data is when I take that string and I turn it into a nested structure of objects. Okay? So Serde does both of these things, and this is verb-oriented. I think they didn't name it JSON because there was a lot of controversy in Python over one module being named JSON, and no one could really decide who should be in charge of that. So now most of the JSON libraries are like have some other kind of silly name, and then they compete, and then one becomes the standard. The current two winning JSON libraries are Serde, and there's something maintained by Tencent, right? Which is called JSON T or something. It's good to learn to use some crate, so I'm going to have you learn to use this one probably. And here's how I got started. And you saw me do this earlier. I created a new crate, and I did not name it Serde. Don't do that mistake. When I taught NumPy this year, I told everyone to make a folder called NumPy and do all their work inside that. Do not do that, because Python is going to look for something named NumPy on the file system. It broke everyone's computer. It was a disaster. I had to tell them to name it not NumPy or something like that. So do not name your crate Serde. That is taken. So I used dsare or for JSON or something. And then you have to do this cargo add step. What is happening with cargo add? We haven't talked about this too much because I don't find it interesting, but there's this cargo.toml thing, which I think stands for Tom's obvious markup language, right? Because everything's named after Tom. You're probably familiar with Thomas the Tank Engine, famous computer scientist, right? And so what happens when I say cargo add Serde and Serde JSON, it adds these two things. And I think if I did, I'm going to do it, folks. I'm going to type cargo add polars. I'm going to type cargo add polars. Okay. And then there's polars in there, right? Oh, can you just cargo remove polars? And so that's how you can add and remove dependencies. Really, it's just written in plain text. You can edit the cargo.toml. I don't bother editing the cargo.toml because I always forget to put in the quotes. So I just use cargo add. And I think you can probably do, you probably only have to type A or something. So that's how you set things up. You should expect every time you're using Serde, you're probably going to do something like me where you have a couple different traits where you're screwing around with it or something. You're going to forget to add Serde to all of them, or you're going to only add Serde and not add Serde JSON. I needed Serde and Serde JSON for everything I was doing. Serde works with things other than JSON. I don't know what they are. It's probably like every other file format in the universe. I have no idea. I learned JSON last week in a panic due to some changes to the CS151 curriculum. It was good for me. It built character. You may have noticed when I taught graph theory, there was this reference to JSON. That was completely random. That was not predicting this lecture at all. I just thought JSON was a good way to do that. I definitely would have taught that more thoughtfully and intentionally if I'd known we were going this direction. You may or may not be interested in these notes I have on JSON. If you're just interested in JSON, this is how I would teach JSON because this is how I taught it. But it is very Python-centric. I have, in the last week, convinced myself that JSON is basically a Python thing. And the way I convinced myself of that is I kept trying to print out JSON, and everyone in the universe says the correct way to print out JSON, and I've shown you today, is you say Python 3 m json.tools. This is how everyone uses JSON on their own system, which means, even though the JS stands for JavaScript, everyone's using Python to mess with this stuff, right? No module named JSON tools. Well, that's a good counterexample to the thing I just said. There we go. Got it. First try. Is it single quotes or double quotes? Does anyone remember? There's only one that's allowed. I think it's double. So scared. Okay. So that's how I use JSON. To me, it does not feel like Rust is supposed to be doing JSON, and that's because of this it's 5 types thing. But we can get it to work. I'm going to use a cute little JSON file. Do you notice how it's cute? You can tell it's cute because it fits on one screen. That's what makes files cute, right? And so I made a cute little JSON file after the second most abundant element in the universe, right? Because you never want to be competing with number 1. But helium, there's not that much of it, right? So I thought that would be safe. And so I made this, and I just wanted it to include what? Strings, integers, and nesting. That's what I wanted. This is not all of JSON, but this is enough. Helium lives at this link, and here is a way to get one locally on your file system. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that real quick. Really? URL rejected, port was not a decimal number. Is this happening to anyone else? Oh, no, do you see, there's something there. What is that? That's crazy. Hold on, I want to see if it's there this time, too. Look, what is that? I have no idea what that is. View selection source? Yeah, there's something in there. I don't know how it got there. Does anyone know what that is? It's 16? Is that hex 16? It doesn't exist. It's okay. We're gonna blame cosmic rays for that one. That's a cosmic ray angle. I've never seen that before. Well, that's fun. Okay, so we can cat helium.json, and ooh, it looks nice. Or we can Python 3 m JSON tool helium.json, and it will look the same because this one's already pretty print modified. You can go look at this in a browser if you would like. This is what it looks like in my browser. By default, it sort of has this nice JSON, so most browsers support JSON. I think, some of you are probably on Chrome. I don't exactly know what this will look like on Chrome. I'm pretty sure I checked it. But we have these sort of nice ways to look at JSON. And then you can also just check the raw data. Then you can copy and you can pretty print. And you'll notice pretty print is judging my indentation style because I do 4 spaces and JSON likes 2. So we can work with that JSON file. With JSON, it's time to screen split. Okay. So I have 2 things. I have a JSON file. There it is. It's helium. And I have Serde and Serde JSON added to my crate. You can go ahead and check out just the Stack Overflow solution I found to this. I found the Serde documentation completely unusable. I felt this about every single Rust crate I've tried to use. I don't know who this documentation is written for. It's not me. Maybe it's you. Go read it if you want to. But I just figured everything out myself because I am scared to ask for directions. So I'm just going to grab this. And what am I going to do here? Okay, so what do we have here? I'm going to read helium.json. And if you run this on your computer, which I thought you might, the most likely reason this code will explode is that you didn't curl helium.json yet. So this is going to read it, and this is going to get a string. We're going to have a string that corresponds to helium.json. I'm going to debug display that string. And then I'm going to create something. I'm going to call it JSON. It is going to be of type Serde.json value. What is that? Great question. This is the broad spectrum type that refers to everything that can possibly be in JSON. Okay? And how am I going to do that? I'm going to do Serde.json from string, because this thing is a string. And I'm going to unwrap it because I'm not afraid of anything. Right? Now, if I edit this to not be proper JSON, this will explode. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Ta-da! It's JSON. Okay, and then let's look at one example. Let's deproperify this JSON. So I just deleted the initial bracket. And then I get a panic because I don't have well-formed JSON, so I'm not allowed to deserialize it. So the deserialization only works if I have well-formed JSON. What did I type? Help, help. Does anyone know Vim? Are you all using Vim? Did I trick you into using Vim? Raise your hand if you're using, no, Vim, yes, those are Vim hands. Okay. Yeah, I don't actually know which one I'm using. I think, I'm 100% sure that at home I have a computer that has Windows and Linux on it. And when I'm using Linux from Windows, it's NeoVim, and when I'm using Linux directly, it's Vim, but it's the same computer. But there's like something about logging into it from Windows causes my defaults to be different. So that I literally can't even tell the difference. Are any of you using VS Code? That's what I like to hear. Give yourself his hands. Right? So that's. I'm proud of you all. Okay. Are you using VS Code? Okay. All right. Anyone using Rust Rover? Okay.
Intelligent.
I'll think about that. Okay. All right. Here's some whatever JSON. Okay. Oh yeah, this is what my directory looks like. I'm also going to have cal and vin in here. Oh. Never mind. I compiled my code once. Here's what it should look like. Okay, I have cal and vin. I'm going to remove cal and vin. There. And so they look the same. Here is something that you might want to do. I'm going to compile something with Serde in it, and it's going to take longer to compile. I'm actually going to time that, so I'm going to time a cargo run. Or maybe I should just build. .3 seconds? Can you believe that? Okay, anyways, cargo run. That it's fast. Okay. So, like, if you want to like take a break, you've been working hard, right? Just delete all of your build files and then rerun again with Serde, and you'll have 5.5 seconds to go make a peanut butter sandwich, right? Which is more than enough time. It was much faster on my desktop, so I guess that's performance related, because I think I took 5.5 seconds over here and I took 3.5 over here. Okay. This will look much cleaner if we do a little bit of manipulation here. Wait, no, that's nvim circ main. I'm going to comment out serialize, deserialize. So by convention, people use serialize and deserialize a bunch, and they use it with structs. I didn't find that an intuitive way to work with Serde, so I'm not teaching you that way. But it is in all of the examples, so just be aware of that. Cargo run. And now when we run it the second time, this is going to look much cleaner, right? I do want to let you know that this text here that might look partially garbled, I'm pretty sure that's just well-formatted string. 3 print. I'm spending a lot of time working with strings for someone that taught this entire class in Rust to avoid working with strings. So that's just conventionally well-formatted JSON. It's just formatted as a string and being printed as a string because of the debug. Not what I meant to do. If we look at main here, all I have to do is change this debug to print, and then I print the string, and then it will print out pretty style. And we see it is in fact pretty style. Okay? So don't stress too much about what the serialized JSON text looks like. Oftentimes you can get it to look like pretty JSON text. I just use debug for everything by default, so it doesn't always come out looking that way. Okay. So we can traverse the JSON/Serde object. I guess it's a value. And you can do this using the expected indexing. So let's take a look at a few examples. I'm actually going to, I'm going to nuke this one. Okay. So we can debug. Let's look at JSON. I think it had what? A phase at standard temperature and pressure or something. What did I not close? Oh, okay. Semicolon. I think this will work. Oh, look, it's the phase at standard temperature and pressure. This looks basically as expected. The only thing is this is wrapped in string. That's how Serde manages the types. We can also look at the group. There's the group. And then for something a little bit more interesting, let's look at the boiling point. I hope that's how I did it. And there's the boiling point, and the boiling point is coming out as an entire JSON object. Okay. Can I also traverse into that object? Yes, of course I can. And the way I do that is I think, let's look it up in degrees Kelvin. And there we have it. I can look up the boiling point in degrees Kelvin just using this nested indexing, same as your favorite programming language, whatever your favorite programming language is. Okay, so it would be nice to be able to add a 2 to this file because that is the atomic number of helium. And that is against the law for reasons that are I actually find them extremely compelling, but they're also super annoying. So we'll take a look at this and see what you think. So it would be nice to be able to just say, hey, JSON number. We've all written Python before. You would think this would work. And then we'll just debug JSON real quick. And then I probably have to make this at least mutable. So let's make this mute now. And that is not allowed. Okay, why is that not allowed? The type of JSON, the thing that I'm calling JSON, this is a Serde JSON value, which means keys are Serde JSON values and values are Serde JSON values. Actually, I don't know if the keys might be Serde JSON keys. I didn't check. I'm just using strings for everything. And I encourage you to only use strings for your keys as well, by the way. By the time you're using integers as keys, you should probably be using a list. So somehow I have to turn 2 into a value, and 2 is currently an I32. Right, so how am I going to do that? Well, one thing you can do is you can say, well, I bet I can say Serde JSON value from 2, because that's how we make things into strings, right? And by golly, it worked. I didn't know that was going to work. That's actually extremely cool. That's so much cooler than the way I was going to do it. I'm going to show you the slides so you can see the horrible way to do this that I did. Okay, are you ready? It's awful. Okay. I have no idea why I didn't try that until right now. Okay, so this is actually going to be hilarious now. I thought you had to do all of this. Look at this. Value, number, JSON, Serde JSON number from 2. Well, this is still going to work, by the way. Nope. Control C. Okay. Wow, that's so much cooler than what I was doing. Okay. Oh my gosh. Undo. Okay. Let's put them side by side, and I think this will work. Okay. No. Copy. Paste. There we go. Okay. So, what is the difference I thought I had here? Okay, I thought I had to type the 2. And you don't actually have to do that. Let's verify that both of these work. That one works. Okay. This one works. Okay, I have to try one other thing, because now I'm curious. There's a built-in JSON macro. Let's see if this works. I think it's JSON, boom, and can I put a 2 in there? Okay, and maybe I can use, okay. Okay, so the correct way to do this, and I don't know how I didn't figure this out in the last week, is anything you need to put inside of a JSON object, you just do JSON exclamation point, same as vector exclamation point, same as debug exclamation point, it's just a macro. Don't do any of this stuff. Wow, that's so cool. I really wish I knew about this before I wrote a lot of code. Okay. All right. This is so JSON can hold things of any type. Right. Okay. So what is the usefulness of value? Value can be, or it cannot be. It can represent any of the 5 types, which are, again, hash map, vector, string, int, float. Okay. I'm going to see if I can put a 2.0 in here. That's crazy. It can handle floats too. Okay. All right. So let's step through an example, and I think I'm going to alter the example while we're working through it to accommodate the new findings. I'm going to show you how I would build something out of JSON now that I've shown you how to use something that is already JSON. So we're going to make neon. And the way I'm going to do that is, okay, I'm going to create a new thing that is neon. What am I going to do? It's going to be a hash map, and it is going to be, I'm going to do string for now. And it's going to be a standard collections hash map new. And I'm going to just debug that right now and make sure that works. Okay. Remove this mute. Wait, what's the error? Oh, there's just a loose. Okay. So I'm able to create whatever, some kind of hash map from that. I can insert a variety of things into this hash map, and I'm just going to do the example I have here, where I have symbol, phase, standard temperature, vector group, and period. Okay. How do I get to the beginning of that line? No. Okay, tab. Okay. And so now if I run that, I'm going to see something that looks an awful lot like JSON, but it has one horrible thing about it that I want to point out. That 18 and that 2, those are in quotes. Those should not be in quotes. Those are strings. Those are not numbers. And so this is bad and wrong and evil, and we should take this to Mount Doom, throw it into the fire, and instead use Serde. Right? So let's go ahead and pivot to a Serde version. And so we can do a Serde version in a different way, which is we can create, instead of a hash map, we're going to use a Serde JSON map. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say Serde JSON, and it's not going to be a hash map. It's going to be a Serde JSON map, and it's instead of strings and strings, it's going to have strings and Serde JSON values. Pop quiz, what does the Serde JSON value represent? I think what you said was correct. Do you want to say it louder?
Anything that can be in a JSON.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. That's exactly right. And I think they're just called values because the key value pair thing, but like it's a value, right? And I think this is going to be Serde JSON map new. Okay. So having done that, now what can I do? I can still do insert, but I can make this a lot cooler. Can I do this? Am I cool enough to do this? Okay. In block mode, I'm gonna delete that. Gonna go into block mode, insert mode. Okay, I'm just gonna do these all brackety. I have to like edit them over. Let's see. If you know Vim and you know a graceful way to do this, let me know. Okay. And then what am I going to put in there? Okay. This is going to be string from any, but I think I can probably just say Serde JSON value from any. And we're just going to try that for now and see if that works. Then we'll do these other ones, depending on whether that works. That... Oh, it exploded? No entry found for key? That's kind of sad. I thought that just worked. Didn't that just work? We just did this, right? Okay. So we have to instead do insert. Oh, wait. Does symbol have to just be a string from? This is a little more live code than I signed up for. Okay, we might be in big trouble. Okay, what does the answer key say? It says any.insert. Okay. Okay. Insert. We're going to have string from, and this is the symbol. And then the thing we're going to insert is the Serde JSON value. And then we're going to close the parens, and then this is going to work on the first try. Okay, and then I think the other thing we can do to make this shorter, so I think I can say JSON exclamation point, and then that works. Okay. And I don't understand why this didn't work. I thought this one would work. Okay. Wait, maybe that's allowed? Okay. My formatting is all breaking up. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So for some reason that's not allowed and I thought it was. Okay. So we do instead dot insert string from symbol, first argument, second argument, the JSON macro of the thing we want to make. Okay. So then we can go ahead and do this for more values. The next one we can do is phase STP and gas. And then we can do undo, let's see. Then we can do group. I'm not going to use a string this time. I'm going to put an 18 in here. And then we can do a, this is in the period 2. I guess that's the row. Does anyone know chemistry? It has 1 indexed rows. Did any of you take chemistry? I've asked this before. None of you take chemistry. Oh, you took chemistry? Okay. Is this a chemical? Okay, all right. Don't ever say I don't teach you anything in this class. I'm teaching you about noble gases right now, right? Okay. Is that on the syllabus? Nobody knows, right? Okay. And so this is how you can put things into JSON. Why might you want to do this? You might be saving lines of text in JSON. Okay. I haven't shown you the hard thing yet. And the hard thing is to deal with the boiling point problem. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, this is what I'm going to do. Make another hash map or vector or Serde thing. And so somehow you're going to get an object, right? And then we're just going to use the insert method. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a new thing called boiling point, okay? Watch this. This is going to be so easy, you're going to fall asleep instantly when you do it, okay? Please don't fall asleep instantly. Is this class boring? Okay. Would you tell me if it were never? I don't want to know. Don't. Never mind. Forget I said anything. Okay. Boiling point. And then what are we going to do? Oh no, I guess I want a number. So I think there's a boiling point. Kelvin is, that's off screen, 27. Okay, and then we're also going to have Celsius and Fahrenheit, and those are going to be negative 246 and negative 410. Negative 246, negative 410. I truncated. These aren't even rounded. I literally just didn't look at the decimal points at all. No. Do you ever just type random stuff in Vim and it goes kind of crazy? Yeah. I don't know if everyone has that problem or just us. Oh, that's bad. That's not what we meant to do. Do you see how this is bad? We just added those key value pairs directly to knee, right? That's not cool at all because I don't know if this is the melting point or the boiling point, right? So what do I have to do? None of these knees should be knees. They should all be BPs, right? So we BP them, okay? Then that's fine. Let's also look at, let's hit a quick debug on BIP. Okay, there's the BIP. There's the knee, right? Okay, we're all good. And now it's time for the coolest thing possibly ever. That's usually what people say when I do this. What am I going to do? We're going to insert the boiling point. Is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? I don't hear the sound of you being ready, but I understand it's hard to keep your energy up this long into class, right? But I want you all to know that I am ready, okay? So what am I doing? Into knee, I'm inserting with key boiling point, the boiling point structure. Oh no. Really? I don't want to do that though. Okay, now it's going to be the coolest thing possibly ever, okay? Fun fact, those aren't in order because it's a hash map, right? They happen to be in reverse order. I added them. No, that's not even true. They're in a completely arbitrary order, I think. And in JSON, the order does not matter. So that's super cool and super good. There we have it. Oh, you can make this less disgusting with use, I think. So we can say, I don't know what we do. Maybe you can put like map in here. You think I can just throw value in there? That doesn't seem like that'd be allowed. So I'm going to see if I can get rid of these, which I think I can. I'm trying to cut down on your typing, you know? It just doesn't seem like it's going to let me do this. Maybe it will. Whoa, that worked. Okay, cool. And then we can change all the value. I guess we're just not using value at all. Oh wait, no, we're using them here. Okay. Okay, and so this code is considerably more concise. I wonder if I can get rid of string here. I really want to get rid of the strings. There's no way that's going to be allowed. Yeah, you just have to have a string. Unless... Wait, is there a string macro? There's a string macro, right? There probably isn't. Okay. String from symbol. Okay. I think this is about as clean as I can get everything. I don't know why sometimes you can use index notation to add things and others you can't. I haven't really figured that one out. I'm pretty sure sometimes you can use the JSON macro on hash maps and other times you can't. I'm not totally clear on that either. Just play around with this and see what you think. I think with just this much, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And this, in fact, can be used to solve some graph theory problems. So we skipped an assignment, for example, to make a suffix tree. If you're looking for something to do, make a suffix tree in Rust using Serde, and it'll work pretty well. And the reason making suffix trees is hard is because they have ambiguous depth. So you have to somehow deal with that problem and deal with ownership. Serde handles all of that for you. Any questions on this so far? I'm just going to get rid of serialize, deserialize. Okay. And I think that's it for me. Oh, yeah, you can write your own macros if you want. That's up to you. It is a bit of an anti-pattern, but if you are implementing a source control management system for your own purposes, you don't need to use any key value pairs at all and can exclusively use vectors arrays. Okay, I have to tell you this. So, it has probably occurred to you, if an array is going to maintain order, and I'm writing my own code, I never have to look up anything by value because I already know what its index is because I'm the one that wrote the code. For years when I was writing code, I didn't use key value pairs. I did everything by index and just memorized what an index correspond to everything. I've been told this is atrocious. I think it is super cool. So I will respect you more, and I will provide cover for you in forms of a letter of recommendation if you do this entire assignment without using key value pairs. I was like about halfway through doing it without any key value pairs because to me it's never natural to use key value pairs when I was like, wait, someday someone else is going to see this code. I have to change to use dictionaries, right? But I had absolutely no intention of using a dictionary at any point in time for this. I was just going to use a list of lists all the way down. This is very common for people that come from a functional programming background. Here's another one. You don't want to work in Serde the whole time? No problem. Make all of your hash maps have the same depth. You can always just sort of like pad depth by putting in a bunch of keys in a row or something, right? So it is pretty easy to sort of manipulate your hash maps to all be of the same depth, so they're all of the same type. So for example, you might have a hash map with string keys and hash map with string keys and hash map with string keys all the way down to like say a depth of 4 or 5. You're not going to need that much depth and you can always pad it, okay? This is objectively bad. Yeah, I do think that's objectively bad. That seems like something you shouldn't do, but of course you can, right? Especially when you look at early computer science, like everything is hacked together and nothing is about like discipline or doing things the proper way, right? And I think diff is an example of this. When you are working on your diff, and some of you are probably done with diff, but you saw I finished diff and then I went back and learned Serde and reformatted my output. It is quite likely you start wanting to output your diffs as JSON objects somehow. And you probably want to put those JSON objects inside of some big nested JSON hierarchy that has an object for every combination of a file and a version. I have not decided in terms of the design space I'm working in if I want to sort things by version and then file or by file and then version. It's fundamentally like a relational database, which is one reason that I think if you know SQL, you might want to solve this with SQL. So make up your own design decisions there. My sense has been that I want an array of commits, and then I want a commit to be a dictionary of file names, because there's no ordering over file names. And I think those are the only sort of design constraint conversations I want to have with you all there. And with that, I think the source control management system backends, I don't think you need to start working on it right now, but I do want you to start thinking about it. Any final questions? Yes.
We're doing this individually, but...
Oh, yeah, we didn't decide on that. Do you have a preference?
I'd probably prefer individually, but I'm also open to...
Okay, we're doing it individually. Thank you. In the next 2 years, I will figure out if this is an individual assignment or not, and I don't know right now. Yeah.
Is diff due this upcoming Friday or the one after that?
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about it because of break. Yeah, take until next Friday, for sure. I didn't write that down, but... Does it say somewhere?
It's like a week off anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I will update this to list a later due date somehow. I'll remember to do that. Thank you. That's a good question. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. That's great. Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to show you one last thing, and then I will let you go. Let's see if I can find this thing. So, the thing, this was sort of teased all day, the serialized, deserialized thing. What that actually is intended to be is you're supposed to derive it over a structure you write, and the structure furnishes the type. This is the intended way to use Serde. So if you're using this the intended way, there would be a struct that corresponds to a source control management commit that would have the correct nested structure in it. I do not think of data-driven programming that way. I think of it exclusively in the functional sense. So I would write a function called commit that takes the requisite arguments, builds the JSON object, and returns that. So I could not wrap my head around this metaphor. I would like you to be aware, because I think depending on how you learned data structures or some other language, it might seem super intuitive for you to do this. And the way you find this, and I'll show you again, is you type Serde into your favorite web browser and your favorite search engine, which is presumably Google and Firefox, so I don't even know what else you'd use. And then you just pop over here to structs and enums in JSON, and there's a bunch of examples, and it includes all of this derived, serialized, deserialized. So when I commented out that block that says use Serde, : curly bracket, serialize, deserialize, it is because this is the expected, anticipated, and officially supported way to use Serde JSON. I've never used this. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care about it. Maybe it's super awesome, and maybe it will help you organize your code. So you can use this if it makes more sense to you. Okay. And on that note, look at all of this stuff. But to me, this just seems like typing for the sake of typing. And you can write a function that does this in 3 lines. So just be aware of this, and this might, help your code not break or something. Does this really run in the browser? No way. That's very impressive. Anyways, good for that. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Monday. Oh, be quiet when you leave because there's other classes going on.